Welcome to the Visign YouTube channel. I'm Hugh, and today's video is part of a webinar series. Get ready for an engaging session ahead that will probably give you a lot of new information. Thank you, and hope you'll enjoy the video. First of all, I want to welcome everyone and thank you for taking part in this event that we're organizing. The entire team worked together to actually put this document together for you guys. And we'll go through each part or each step that are related to the entertainment job market itself. We know that last year in 2023 there were a lot of layoffs. In 2024 it continued in January with a lot of layoffs again. And of course we're going to discuss the past developments, the current situation, practical steps to take as an individual artist. And this relates mostly to the individual. It's not about the collective, it's about the individual and what is it within your power to control. And we're going to address those things in each slide we're going to go through. The outline of the entire thing, we go through an introduction phase, past developments, current situation and impact of the industry itself, practical steps, and in those practical steps we're going to discuss about portfolio and presence, skills, but skills will not be limited to just skills in general. We'll be very specific for what is a starting artist, what is like more of a medium with some experience, and what is a senior. We're going to address all those three parts. We're going to discuss about the application method and how we actually should do certain things related to application, including some negotiation practices that are best for artists. So we're going to discuss that. And of course, we're going to do some financial component to it as well, because I think even artists should actually know a bit of financial for themselves in order for them to actually do well. When it comes to like the introduction phase here, so in the general world, there were like estimated in the tech sector were 250,000 people that were laid off in the tech. That means programming, and that means database. That means like a lot of those jobs were out, and roughly 10.5 in the video game sector. What this means doesn't mean that all artists were like 10.5K were like laid off were artists. There's roughly, like we'll see in the next slide, there's roughly a smaller percentage than that. And some key questions that we're trying to answer here is things that are related to past development that led to the current situation, what happens in the moment, and what is the impact itself, and what practical steps can you take for the current situation. Now, during the 2020 and 2021, we had an unsustainable pandemic boom in the industry itself, meaning that companies were getting a request of high demand from population when it comes to entertainment sector itself, and they did massive hiring. What this means is basically like companies overhired in that period of time, and what happened in that situation was mainly a thing that occurred. When it comes to like later on in the part where you had the difficulties for the global economy, when the global economy started to slow down, the pandemic started to like kind of disappear. There was a war scenario between Russia and Ukraine. People were affected by high cost of living. Things like that occurred, and of course the interest rates that raised, that actually created people, made people to actually spend less on entertainment, and companies had difficult times in repaying the loans themselves. So a lot of funding started to cut, and that event in itself actually triggered what you call today the layoffs that are happening in the entertainment sector. And of course, the first signal was like that happened was like the Twitter massive layoffs. That was like the first click, and that were 50% in November 2022 and up to 80% in April 2023. And Elon Musk reduced the number of like employees there. Had that famous meme with "Let it sink in." Further challenges when it comes to like film and TV, of course, there was a scenario when it comes to like the production difficulties. When you think about a screenwriter strike, you've probably seen this before on the internet. You had the lower quality and originality of production. You see very few original productions. There's a superhero fatigue when it comes to like places like Marvel, Disney, DC, the Warner Brothers, and of course too much low quality material, meaning there's a big process of like low quality material there. When it comes to the current situation, the worldwide layoffs and closures include major companies. Okay, so the largest percentage of like companies were very big ones, and those studios affected, as you see in the list here. I'm not gonna go through all of them. That's just for like that's the full list that we put there, but there's more to it. And there's Microsoft, there's Bethesda, there's Epic, there's BioWare, CD Projekt Red, Activision Blizzard, and of course EA, Embracer Group, and so on and so forth. When it comes to efficiency, ownership of the corporate restructuring itself, you'll have 60% of affected studios were owned by larger companies, meaning that larger companies bought studios at a very good deal, and they made deals during the pandemic to actually expand entertainment on their own end, and then they actually struggled because entertainment fell down, demand fell down from people, so they had to like push out people at that point. So they actually bought studios and then they fired people, which is actually dumb if you ask me. But again, that's the reaction, and that's because of the market shifts. When it comes to like 50% of the affected studio were medium large, meaning they have roughly 100 plus employees. When it comes to the all dev areas affected, especially when it comes to intermediate and senior talent, you'll see that in design there's 18% here. You'll see production is 15%, art is 14% here. Okay, so what happens in this type of scenario here? Okay, let me do that again. So what happens in this scenario here, where we have like 14%, marketing 10%, programming 10%, you see there's a lot of percentage that is divided, right? It's not all art. So there were a lot of people that I communicated with and talked with, I remember, and they were saying like, oh man, there's so many artists trying to find jobs and there's so many layoffs. Well, it's just 14% of the total layoffs are related to art. And yes, that is a big number if you think about the community of artists in general and the working artists that are working in the industry sector. Everybody in the large majority, where you see 66% of the employees that were laid off were 31 years old plus, which are intermediate and senior levels. So a large majority of those people, is like 2/3 of them, were 31 years old and more. When it comes to the current situation at the individual level, you get a certain type of issues, which are quiet hiring, which is additional unpaid responsibilities and or unpaid overtime for employees, and of course potential capping of salaries artificially. You have the high competition for a limited pool available of positions, and out of course necessity, some skilled professionals may accept positions for which they are overqualified. Industry entrants may be discouraged by the limited pool of available entry position, which is actually true, and this applies to a lot of people that I know, even in your case, and potential competition from experienced professionals. But I'll tell you something that you have and professionals don't in some cases. When it comes to opportunity to gain additional skill and confidence in performing new tasks, gain competitive advantage on the job market, and we're actually going to discuss about that in the practical steps. And we'll discuss what competitive advantage means and how that can be used. At a company and industry level, there's a skill gap, less know-how on how the job or skill itself will transfer within companies who lost the skilled talent. There's budget limitations and shrinking scopes and cancellations of different types of projects and products, and all the whole thing will continue to limit the number of available positions in the industry until there is a balance shift in the end and things will rebound in essence. There's an added pressure on smaller and indie developers who may struggle to get investment and afford senior talent. You guys can understand that any type of like startup that you probably look at and so on and so forth, they struggle a lot because there's like a big problem with talent itself. And not only that, it's really hard for them to have the money to purchase that talent from the market. And of course, it may take a few years for the global economy to recover and companies to gain confidence and reinvest again. That means basically the interest rates at the current state of affairs have to go a bit lower. People should understand that the market itself, and when it comes to money, it's becoming available, and that availability of money in the market will make venture capital firms and investors to invest in studios a bit more, to have more confidence, to actually create more entertainment for this sector. And of course, the opportunity to stand out through high quality entertainment productions will be probably the number one thing that will relaunch the industry itself, meaning that if you guys, even on an individual level, can actually build some high quality content or high quality materials that can cater and actually be useful and help people, that can absolutely be useful in that sense. When it comes to the practical steps, for example, there's some practical steps that can be made to actually consolidate your own situation, and of course, suitable for all artists unless specifically marked. So we have the employed category, unemployed, entry, now entering the industry. We have mid, between 1 and 2 years of experience, and advanced, which is 3, 5, and plus years of experience. And these are the 4 areas where you guys have to actually work on, because we're getting into the practical steps part. So first of all, you have to understand the portfolio and presence is probably the most important number 1 thing. There's maintaining a daily routine in this area, in brushing up your portfolio and maintaining your online presence. And let's go a bit we're gonna go into each, which means basically, like when it comes to maintaining a daily routine, is basically you start to build yourself a schedule and have quite a bit more discipline in the schedule route, in the essence. Then you have the brushing up a portfolio, where you have to actually take the portfolio, make sure that it's worthwhile, the quality benchmarks are there, and of course making sure that you're present online, meaning you conduct a behavior that is like community oriented or communicating or communication oriented, beside the behavior that you have on the side when it comes to like the area of the portfolio itself that has to be present there and updated. There's the skill bracket, where you have to upgrade your skill set, which is something that you still have to do. I know a lot of people, there was some debate and questions about like updating skill set related to AI. We're going to do a separate event on AI, but that shouldn't actually deter you to update your skill set, because regardless of what you'll do, your skill set will be with you regardless. So it's an investment on the long run that will be definitely helpful over time. You can actually polish your communication skills, meaning you have to get better at how do you communicate to people, how accurate you are, how good the information is you're actually conveying through communication, and how that actually is helpful to other people, especially when you work in a team. And of course, there's a learning to negotiate task. I believe strongly in the idea of learning how to negotiate your own things that you have to do, understanding what is like non-negotiable, what is middle ground. We're going to go into that too. We have the application phase. So that's on the skill phase. On the application phase, you have to establish the non-negotiables on your end. You have to apply strategically. You have to do some due diligence and research. You have to understand and study the rates that are available in the market, and of course they're using different avenues to actually get to that part and be persistent. Like persistence, I believe, is the last thing here on the list. That is key. Persistence is very important. The other side, where you have financial, is good to understand financial, at least at a minimum viable basis, meaning you need to understand how to estimate your expenses, live below your means if it's possible, however it's possible, and cut things that are not useful. Build an emergency fund. Make sure that you may put some money aside for rainy days, and think about passive income if possible. I put if possible there because that's a totally different conversation, and it's actually a hard conversation to have. When people think about passive income, I think they neglect a bunch of things. We'll probably go into that too. Now, let's go into the practical stuff related to portfolio specifically and presence. On the practical steps here, when it comes to portfolio and presence, you have the number 1 thing of maintaining a routine. And of course, here you guys will probably have very different routines. It doesn't matter if you like to work by night or like to work by day. It doesn't really matter or affect, as long as you have one. What this means is, like, if you have a tendency to work more at night, that is fine, but at least keep somewhat an established routine to that. What it does, it eases the mental workload, meaning that everything that you do, if you have it scheduled or pre-scheduled, things are falling into place. It will ease the amount of stress and anxiety felt at a general level with yourself, meaning that if you have things scheduled and you're getting things done, that means the stress amount and anxiety you have towards yourself and towards everything that you do drops quite below the levels. And you have, and it avoids the feeling of being overwhelmed. And that is actually probably very important, because when you are in a situation where you're trying to get out there or trying to build yourself, you'll always think like, man, but what do I do? How do I do it? Why is this not working? Why is the other thing working? And so on and so forth. There's a lot of conversation and questions asked on how things are going to work or not. When it comes to like the areas of people that are unemployed and employed, there are 2 different things there. People that are unemployed can set a daily routine focusing on skills, personal work, online presence, and application. So if you're unemployed currently, and let's say you still have to learn, or you still have like a bunch of things to actually attach to your portfolio, you can set yourself a daily routine focusing on skills, personal work, meaning you still learn a software, let's say, you're learning a software. For that case, personal work, you're still updating and trying to build personal work for yourself to have a clear guidance for yourself in the market. You gotta be online and be present there, have conversation, discuss with people, and don't be afraid. Like oftentimes an introvert will say like, yeah, but it's hard for me to talk to people because I'm shy, or it's hard for me to do this because I don't feel like it, because like, what if people judge me in the wrong? Listen, it doesn't matter in the end. As long as you get out to start talking with people, things will ease over time. But that only eases over time if you actually put effort into it in an active manner. It's not a passive thing. Sometimes you will have like a moment of like, okay, I'm gonna actually be online this month. You're gonna be online a bit, and then you kind of downs off. That's a bit of lack of discipline that occurs there, and it actually creates a gap. So you don't have a compounded effort over time to actually make that thing work. And everything that I'm talking here works on a compound effect basis, meaning it adds up over time. For the employed people that are actually working and do have jobs, make time outside work for focusing on your skills in personal work and online presence. Why is this important? Oftentimes, if you're going to be kicked out by the company, let's say not kicked out because it sounds actually pretty bad, let's say you're fired for whatever reason. It's a financial reason, it's not necessarily a skill reason, or you're at fault for it. It's basically the company is shrinking and they cannot hold you anymore. Let's say that is the case. You need to have a setup for yourself that can actually propel you to success for the next job. For that to happen, you still need to take care of all those things that I actually talked earlier: skills, personal work, and online presence. You still brush your skills, you still create personal work and post it online and have conversations with people around it. Maybe even like if you're a very capable employed professional, maybe even help other people and give feedback. Get to do some networking. You do networking for students. With students, you can do networking with professionals. You can do networking with companies. There are multiple areas of networking that you can think and strategize to actually do that. When it comes to minimum requirements here, when it comes to like entry level and unemployed people, 1 hour a day, you should actually do applications if that is the case. But this application has to be in the context of you having already built portfolio. If you don't have a built portfolio, that hour of application should actually be added to personal work or study skill set expansion, right? So you do the application part only if you have a portfolio already done. 6 hours, you can do personal work and actually build skill set from an imaginative standpoint, and of course, trying to apply what you learn in terms of fundamentals, anything related to design, anything related to storytelling, whatever you're learning, you're applying to your skill set in an active manner on a daily basis. And then you have 30 minutes of social media and 30 minutes of networking. Social media, you basically interact with people on social media. What this means is basically you go out there and you leave a positive comment. You say something nice to people. I don't suggest people to go out there to actually banter people. I think we are better than that, and I believe we can, if you go online or go out our way to leave a comment, we want to leave a comment that is actually beneficial to the person. If a person asks for feedback, even feedback has to be given in a kind manner, where it's like respectful and actually helps people out. And when it comes to networking, 30 minutes of networking is basically sending messages specifically for people that you have an interest in. Let's say it's another student that has better work than you do. That might be like a next acquaintance that I want to have. Like, hey John, my name is Steve. Man, I love your portfolio. I love your work. Would you be able to, I saw you're a student there. Can you tell me a bit about your journey as a student and how did you actually got this good? Because I'm curious. Can you actually give me some advice? That type of stuff for students that are very capable is like gold. You give them the attention that they probably sometimes want and deserve, and at the same time they'll be glad to help you out. And there are amazing students out there that have very good skill set, and they can tell you some stories about their journey. That is like networking, and you actually maybe you befriend them and you become like friends together. Maybe you work in the same hangout, maybe you work in the same channel somewhere. That's what happens. When it comes to like people that are in the mid, advanced and employed people, usually, the 2 hour personal work, for example, is kind of a benchmark. You should do personal work as a professional regardless, and you should keep polishing your skills. Study and skill set expansion, that still has to happen. Maybe let's say you're a senior that is pretty bad at communication because you're just a senior, you didn't want to go towards like a lead position. Maybe you should want to actually go into skill set expansion of communication. Maybe you want to go into leadership skills, what it doesn't mean to lead a team and what does it mean to actually be supportive to the people that you actually have there. There are 30 minutes of social media and 30 minutes of networking. That should be a mandatory thing on a daily basis too. And of course, there will be people that will probably do more social media and more networking, and more kudos to that. Because that is basically like, we live in a day and age where you need to consistently communicate so people understand what you're saying. Like if I speak to you right now, through my voice, I can convey many other things than just the fact that I'm a guy in the industry or whatnot, I just typing out. You hear me out, you can listen to me. There's a different type of conversation. Even audio conversation is different than live conversations. And I believe the live conversations are the best ones, at least today. The one thing that you have to take in mind here at the bottom there is you will likely need to cut out leisure time, meaning TV, games, going out, socializing, and so on. Time invested in yourself will be priceless over time, and it will reap value benefits down the road that you're putting yourself towards. So you have to understand that there needs to be a trade-off. Like, I'm not saying you should actually do that only thing the whole time, always. You can give yourself some two hours of leisure, 3 hours of leisure a day, that is fine. But at least invest that time accurately where it should be invested. Now, when it comes to portfolio, you got to make sure that the portfolio itself is tailored to the position you're looking for. And of course, like you'll see that recruiters, when they look, they often scan the portfolio really quick and fast and get a first impression. Oftentimes recruiters maybe don't have any clue like what is good art or what not. Maybe there's a problem of taste, and you need to talk with someone else that can actually evaluate the stuff that you do. But again, it has to be very good in the sense that it can showcase the required skill for the position itself. Like for example, concept art is about creating and developing new ideas supported by strong drawing skills. Showcase your drawing skills and processes. Illustration is about how quality renders. Showcase your painting skills and mastery of fundamentals, light, color, and so on. If you're applying to a position with a certain company or IP, it's actually good and smart to build into that, to build a portfolio in the stylistic language and the visual language that the studio has, in essence. Another part here, you'll see that on the right here, we have a bunch of portfolios, from character design to environment to prop design to concept art to illustration. You'll be available to actually click on these links. You probably heard about these people, so it should actually be fine. You can check it out later on, because these are examples for you guys to take in terms of quality benchmark. We actually paid attention to these, we curated them, so they actually should be fine. Now, on the next part, the second part on the portfolio, there are certain things that, again, it reflects your current skill level. It will hit a quality benchmark. I talked about that. You can actually check some stuff. And it has to be constantly updated at least once every 2 weeks. That is our recommendation. Meaning, every 2 weeks, you should have a piece to put in your portfolio. During a year, you'll actually have a new portfolio almost every year, if that is the case. And that can give you a competitive edge that we're talking about. And on the right side here, you have entry-level portfolios. These are some portfolios, and we choose from some specific students. These students and certain people here were actually participating in some of our challenges and did some amazing work. Although they're students, they're actually doing some great job there, and I believe they have a beautiful future ahead. These are some intermediate level, and some of these people here did had some mentorships. They did went through some processes. They already worked on some jobs. And of course, the advanced is basically people that are probably more known in the industry sector that you probably guys know about. But those are like examples of quality benchmarks for different type of portfolios. So if you're a student, you can compare yourself to the students. If you're looking at a screen, okay, I can look at a student and I can check that. If you guys are an intermediate, maybe I can check the intermediate people, maybe see where I'm sitting there. If it's advanced, okay, I will actually check out the advanced people and see like how I'm in comparison with them. And of course, if I want to advance from entry to intermediate, I'll check those things out. From intermediate to advanced, I'll check those things out there as well. Now, when it comes to like maintaining your online presence, in essence, anything that you do online should add value to other people. This is super important, and I don't know how much I can stress this line there. It should add value to other people. Having a proactive mentality of adding value to people on a daily basis will actually build beautiful relationships over time. And of course, like if everyone has a behavior like that, even in this community, if everybody kind of like proposes a behavior like that, there will be relationships that are good and people will be doing really well over time. There's another thing, the use of Instagram and Twitter to share artworks, LinkedIn for professional updates. Post every 2 days for at least 6 months to gain momentum. That is a super important thing. Like when we started with Visign, like roughly 6 months ago, there was zero, there was nothing, guys. I'm telling you, there was nothing. And what we did a plan. We had a consistent plan over time and actually build that. And now we're starting to actually gain that momentum we're talking about. It's only today we're starting to gain momentum and actually see what actually happens and what occurs. You have to post high quality images, meaning like if you consider optional there, you can consider video. But again, high quality imagery, that should be your thing. Like every time you do through like the post-processing of building high quality stuff for the community you're trying to serve, people you're trying to serve, the world around you, when they see good work, they're like, damn, this person is actually really good. We love their work. We probably want to work with them. That's the first thought to mind. Or if someone sees an opportunity for you, they'll tell you about it because like, listen, I know this person, such and such, they worked concept designs like this, and I think they'll be a great fit for you, like better than like the other person you were trying to reach for, and you'll get recommendations that way. Make sure you respond to certain comments, messages, and mentions. I can tell you basically for myself, I try to respond to a lot of people as much as possible. Sometimes I don't manage that really well myself, so I got my flaws there too. You gotta be polite, meaning in general, it's good to be polite. Like I try to treat everybody around me, and I tell everybody to actually be respectful and be polite. And because like if you are not gonna be polite even online, but through the whole social media landscape, people have a tendency to talk less with you. They might think like, oh, what if this person is gonna do that? Their behavior is not consistent, so that becomes strange and very unattractive on the long run. You can join art groups and participate in art challenges or hashtag campaigns for extra visibility. So you got the Inktober, you got the Mermaid, you got Art versus Artist, all those things. Participate in all of them because there are sort of trend setups for the whole year. You can participate in those to actually help you with growing on social media. And of course, you got some info on the right side where you have the recommended sizes for social media in case you're building content for social media, so you can have that there. Now let's go into the practical steps related to skills. You have to upgrade your skill set. Okay, so what does this mean? Improving your current skill and adding new ones to gain a competitive advantage in the market. So this is a must for people that actually are getting in the current landscape where things are very down. This is a perfect period of time to actually learn new things, actually brush up your portfolio, actually getting conversation, getting feedback from people, actually working hard and putting your head down and actually work for the next period of time. Because if you improve the quality benchmark, you're actually gonna be elevated another level. If you network with people in the industry, you can see details on the right basically, you'll actually have a sort of momentum being built. The rule of thumb is basically there. You add value 3 times to an individual, and if reciprocity does not occur, you have to move on. What this means is you don't have to be stupid and very kind-hearted to the extent that you're being taken advantage of. Does it make sense? So for you guys as individuals, if you help the person 3 times and they don't reciprocate in that scenario, you should actually let them be and mind your business. I'm not saying you should go and hate them. You should not go and banter them. You should not go and address injuries. No, leave them alone, mind your business, and move on. Why I'm saying that specific rule of thumb there is because people sometimes have a tendency to help people infinitely. You should not have an infinite tolerance. You know, if someone pokes you for a long enough time, you'll get pissed at one point. The other part is find a contract above, find and contact people above your level. So for example, entry will have access to mid will have access to more advanced people, advanced will have access to expert or industry leaders usually. So that's kind of like the way things work today. So instead of like trying to contact your favorite artist, I think it's actually smarter and brighter to contact, okay, who do I know or who's probably higher in terms of answering me than the expert artist that I want to actually get in touch with. Well, this is John. Is John there that works at this studio? He probably has a year and a half of experience, but at least I can talk with him. And of course, that is actually absolutely great. So you can talk with John. Of course, if you're mid, maybe you can actually get in touch with a more advanced artist or someone that has a bigger career at that point, and you can, hey, I'm in this bottleneck. I know that you're busy. Can I get some advice around that? I've been working at Ubisoft. I've been working at Square Enix, whatever. Can I get some advisory from you? And he'll tell you, like, listen, I've been there. Like, it's closer and easier for an advanced person to empathize with the mid person simply because they're closer in the gap section. Like, for an expert with an entry, for the expert was very long time ago, and they don't have the availability or even the memory, the muscle memory to remember things from the past to that extent. And sometimes they'll not pay attention, and so like, okay, I'm not gonna talk with kids this time. So that's probably gonna go through their mind. Instead, it's good to understand that if you're an advanced and you're talking to an expert, it's an easier relationship there because they can empathize to that section more. And of course, don't be entitled. Nobody's obliged to give you their time, and of course, professionals are usually very, very busy. And this is important because, like, I do get sometimes scenarios where I see people like, hey, answer me now type of thing. Like, who are you? Okay. Like, I don't know you. You might know me because I'm more online present than you are, and I'm more of a public, becoming more of a public figure in that sense or whatever. And people know me because I talk publicly, and I have to, kind of retain a certain type of like, conversations online. I'm not afforded to be an ass in many scenarios. I need to be respectful regardless if I feel positive or not. So I do have more social responsibility, and usually experts do have a more higher social responsibility in that sense. So be respectful in essence, and don't be entitled. Not everyone will be interested in talking. All you can do is move on to contact someone else. And this is very important too. Okay, you asked once, twice, thrice. If the person doesn't answer you, okay, cool. You shouldn't have resentment. You should try to actually adjust your strategy maybe and see what you can do afterwards. Another part here is it's good to understand the research on the companies and wages. Meaning you should understand what goes on with the company and the wages that they give. You should understand your rights and your obligations as well. It's not always about rights, it's also about obligations that you have, including copyright, intellectual property rights, contractual rights and obligations, and so on and so forth. And you need to learn to negotiate, and of course learn to manage expectations. And we're gonna go into that as well. Number 2 here is polishing your communication skills. So the goal of communication is to set the right expectation and achieve clarity for all sides. That is the goal of communication. If we're talking together, we're trying to come with an agreement, usually through communication. Or if we are in a disagreement, we're actually going to put and have a debate together. If we agree on certain points and we disagree on the other points, we can still have a respectful communication message. Communication here is an important section because it requires certain type of things that you have to keep in mind. So active listening is one of those components where you have to sit on the other side and actually be patient and listen. Verbal communication, this when I actually do speak towards people and actually converse with them. There's written communication where I type, and it's good to type the full sentence properly. And I see oftentimes people use short words like IRL or things like that. Cool. That is fine. It's no problem. In a colloquial sense, it's no problem. In a professional setting, it's not going to be useful. We're talking here about like how to properly get a job in the professional sector. That's not very useful there. Nonverbal communication usually means tone of voice, gesture, body language, and of course, expressions on your face, the way you communicate and talk to people. And there's some key elements to remember is organize and structure your thoughts, standpoint, and always keep a professional tone of voice. On the how to write emails, you'll have to think about the email very responsibly. I see a lot of emails being sent that are not very responsibly built. It's a type of email where it's a me problem and it's a you solution for my problem. You have to be more mindful than that. The email has to have a specific subject line, and you have a structure behind it. You have an introduction, which has 3 main points, and of course a conclusion. You want to try to keep the entire idea in per paragraph, and of course if you have like paragraphs, you want to actually try to avoid a wall of text effect and actually keep separate paragraphs. You want to revise and shorten your message to stay on point. I'm not suggesting you should use ChatGPT because it actually depersonalizes the email itself from your own type of personality. You have to do a proofreading, so you can do an auto correction on the email section, of course, and of course try to understand that you can add attachments and you have to sign off so it doesn't look like a spam in that sense. Here's an example of an application email. Okay, so when you're sending to either to a recruiter, or in the sense that if you have to send not only to a recruiter, but maybe it's an art director or it's someone that actually is in charge of that position, you have the subject, where you have the application for the job position itself, and you say their application for this and that. And of course, when you say hello, you address the name of the person you're addressing the email for. If you're sending an email that sounds hello there, nobody will answer that. It's already like a no, because like people are getting very good at filtering these type of emails actually really fast. And if you don't address them by name, they'll say like, yeah, it's a copy paste message. That's the first thing that hops into mind. And it's because people are very lazy. And here, the specificity goes like this. Hello, John. I want to send you an email because I saw you're hiring on the XYZ position. I'm a young, positive individual who is hopefully able to add value to your current product. I'm patient, coachable, and looking for long-term collaboration. I'm willing to work hard and give my best in helping the team. So I'm managing expectations through that part of the process where I'm actually willing to put effort and actually be coachable in the sense that I'm willing to learn from you guys. I'm a person that is willing to actually go for it, and I just want an opportunity from you. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for anything else. You can actually mention that the second sentence. I checked what you guys do at this company, and I strongly believe I can help on the development sheets for environment. I have some experience in doing hand-painted texture in Substance Painter as well, but with a bit of help, I can do it more fluently. What that says is basically I saw a thing that in that position that can actually help you with that specific problem. And I'm actually catering to your specific problem. Therefore, I increase my chance because I'm solving one of your pain points. I'm increasing my chances to actually get hired because I'm solving a pain point. And then you have the portfolio link, of course. And then it's another interesting message. I'm not expecting an answer back, so that's still managing expectations. But I do hope you take a look at my portfolio, as I did my best to align with the requirements of your studio. If there's anything else such as an art test, I'm willing to do it. So you're being open, to actually negotiate further if like they're somewhat happy, but they want to actually test something out more. And then at the end you have thank you for taking your time reading this email. I appreciate what you guys developed in terms of projects. If there's any questions from your end, please let me know. You see, this email is not big at all. It's not anything crazy going on either in it, but it's very well structured. A very good structure in an email can save you a lot of time and a lot of like endless effort in saying hundreds and hundreds of emails. If you know how to address people, you'll learn how to actually go on their end and understand their position. And then that will give you leverage in negotiating. Now, talking about leverage in negotiating, let's go into the practical steps when it comes to learn how to negotiate. So negotiation is a discussion that involves two parties usually. There are multiple parties negotiations. We're not going to go into that. We're going to focus on the two-party negotiation because those are more complex scenarios. To solve an issue and reach an agreement. In applications and job interviews and freelance work, negotiation ensures that the company itself and artists usually agree together on the job requirements and benefits. That, of course, there's obligation and responsibility on both parties. They kind of enlist through a contract through that, and that's what happens. The other part is where experts identify different negotiation styles. So you check the examples. Each person may naturally gravitate towards one style or the other, but it's important to assess usually each situation and adapt to the style of negotiation of the person in front of you. Usually, what is the best way that I think about negotiation is having a collaboration type of negotiation, which is considered a win-win. That is I believe is the best outcome on the long-term collaborations that you'll have with people, companies, and anyone else involved. There's also like a scenario where we're going to talk about the scenarios on the side there where you see like the win-lose and so on and so forth. But you have to remember, if if you lose in the negotiation, you'll feel bitter about the other party. That's what's gonna happen. If the other party loses towards you, they'll feel bitter on the long run towards you. And that over time will build animosity. That will create bad feelings towards each other. And that's not something you want. You don't want to work with someone that, oh my God, like, yeah, they're paying me like garbage here and this is what happens. No, you don't want that. You want to be happy and you want the other party to be happy with the outcomes you're actually producing. So it's not smart to actually do those type of compromises where you actually create animosity over time and actually the managed expectations are not there and the conversations are always going one-sided because like you actually negotiated badly for yourself. When negotiating, focus on how you can bring value to the other party. So the processing, I know it's counterintuitive, but you don't think what you gain from them. You focus on what you can offer them. If you focus on what you offer them, that means it gives you leverage in the conversation and communication that you're going to conduct yourself with. Meaning that every single conversation you'll have with this type of topic will actually give you leverage because like, listen, I'm willing to do this, right? I'm addressing all your pain points. That means I'm willing to actually work my butt off. Isn't it reasonable for me to ask for this? And they can say yes or no. But again, if you focus on what you can bring, it'll actually weaken their defenses when it says like, no, we can't give you that money. Well, listen, if it's about money, what do you say about a different tactic? And I will give you a simple example, guys. If you negotiate with someone and they want to lowball your salary, just on a salary basis for simple, or even freelance job, but usually for salary, it's a lot easier. You can actually renegotiate the salary based contractually after the 6 months. So what you tell them is like, is it okay if you pay me the offer that you're asking me and then raise my salary after 6 months of performing in your place? If they answer yes, that is a great deal for you because for 6 months, yes, you'll be paid a bit less, but after 6 months, you'll be paid what you want to. So it's just a patience game over time. You get a bit paid less, but then you get back to normal. And I believe strongly if you're willing to do that and they're willing to put that in the contract, what this means is like you have to make sure that that specific area is related in the contract itself. You will have probably an easier time to actually go there, and that is reasonable. That is not actually behavior that is unreasonable. Usually that is kind of the case. When it comes to negotiation styles, the win-lose doesn't work. That is competing. Accommodate this lose-win. That doesn't work. I explained it creates animosity. The avoidance part, it doesn't even end up in a deal. The compromises are not some lose wins, win some. Like I don't believe in those. Those are actually very bad scenarios too because it creates small quantities of animosity on both sides and they try to compromise all the time and that creates a relationship behavior that is not very good. And of course the collaborate win-win is probably the best one. Now let's go to some practical step applications and check that out. So when it comes to the practical step application, you have to establish your non-negotiables, meaning that every person has value principles that they want to actually negotiate about. And usually like there's things like ethics and work principles and everything that are composed as a human being and individual and their rule book for how they live life in essence. And some examples there is like honesty, transparency, accountability, integrity, long-term orientation if that is the case, emphasis on providing value. If you have those values and principles, you should put them down. That should not be negotiated because that actually is it's a bad negotiation thing. You should not compromise your integrity as a human being. And at the same time, you should not compromise things on your non-negotiables because that is what keeps your vertical back be vertical. And it gives you a chance to actually go forward and put yourself forward. Remember, you're in an unfavorable context, and this gives you less leverage in negotiation usually. So there's a lot of talent in the companies you can choose from, and of course, they may be willing to negotiate less on the flexible aspects. And this is where like the negotiable parts and the flexible points are there. And of course, some examples on the side there when it comes to flexibility of the points. When it comes to like negotiation, you got compensation and benefits. You have salary, you have formal or informal training and development in terms of opportunities to develop skill, specific benefits, working conditions, depending on the location of the studio, what type of studio it is. Is it a big one, a medium, a small one? Is it a contractual term? Is it an in-house versus freelance position and so on and so forth? fixed term versus a limited term. That's again a conversation that has to be discussed. And of course, you got contractual freedom to pursue side or personal projects, and of course, non-compete clause, which exists in our industry as well. When it comes to applying strategically, you have the entry area. Like people that are in the entry level should focus on becoming very good at one aspect. Meaning, you should not diversify your skill set yet. You should be really good at one thing to increase the chance of landing your first job. Meaning, okay, I know this thing, I'm trying to specialize in it, I'm becoming a specialist in it, I'm gonna be a specialist, they're gonna hire me for being a specialist. That's gonna be probably the highest chance of success because it requires a focus on one thing. When it comes to mid and advanced people, you have an advantage if you already are proficient in one area and you have, of course, additional experience in other skills in other areas. You come across as a person who is willing to learn and can better understand the production process, and of course the interdepartment collaboration, which happens a lot in medium, big studios, even in indie studios happen a lot as well. It may not be easy to completely change specialty, so to say, like at your current state of affairs, I'm doing character design, I cannot do tomorrow environments. Absolutely. And of course, you need to actually maybe get into some environment courses while you're still doing characters so you can actually update your skill set and actually have a skill set that is more broad now. Now you can actually do world building instead just like character design. When it comes to what are employers looking in a portfolio, they're looking at those couple of things. Is the portfolio fit with the job and of course the art style that we're creating or the style of the artists that are currently working here? They ask themselves that question. Are you at par with some artists that you currently have in-house? Yes. There's a higher chance they're going to hire. They want to see finished pieces, meaning they want to see that you're able to finish your own projects. Because if you're not, capable of doing your own projects, that actually create an issue on the long run. When it comes to like updated work, they need to understand what level of quality you're able to produce right now. That's why you need to, we talked earlier about updating your portfolio the whole way. That is super important because it keeps you updated and that is actually smart. It's great to have solid fundamentals that can make or break the portfolio because like at the end of the day, everything when it comes to like the foundational part, you need to have a solid grasp there so people will not pick on your foundations when they give you feedback. Like if people give you feedback on, let's say volume or lighting, that's not good. If they give you feedback on perspective, maybe let's say it's not perfect, but it's still not good enough because like you should not have huge problems with perspective because they're very visible and noticeable. If you're applying for a concept art position, thought process, for example, how did you reach your final result? Make sure you actually put like some step-by-steps in there. Explain people some of your process, the way you think, the way you solve problems. It's super important for a concept artist. Good execution. So the artworks need to be clear, clean, and often needs to be able to be used by other departments. So for example, if you're making 2D art, it needs to be able to convey all information for the 3D department to work on it. And that's kind of the case. And this kind of expands in multiple areas as well. Now, when it comes to like the research part, it's good to research the company and having a good practice when applying to any job. Make sure that their work culture itself will align with yours. Make sure that you don't have potential financial risks or struggles. In essence, some of the questions that you have to consider for yourself, and there's a bunch of questions there. Are the company financials looking good, or do they suggest potential difficulties? You can check on the layoffs. Did this company laid off? Does this company economically stand well or not? You can actually do that and search like company revenue, company taxes, whatever, and you can find out about companies. Did the company expand or invest? Or did the company recently had delays or cancellations on products or projects? Does the company recently laid off staff, or there are rumors about, kind of like gonna start soon to lay off? Is it a small indie company, has delivered at least one successful title? Because for small and indie companies, if they had one successful title, they're more stable usually as companies, and they do have some funding keeping them going. Beside the project they released from that funding, they also have some other funding attached to it as well because they provide themselves to be successful to a certain extent. And of course, there's some questions that you can ask during the interview. So one of the things that people forget about is like, what are the core values and principles of the company? If someone cannot answer you that question, you should have some like at least some questions for yourself, like, okay, why do they don't answer this question? It's weird for me. I want to know this because I want to know if I'm aligned together with the counterparty so we can actually collaborate in a good manner. Because if the values and principles are kind of like there between you and the company, you'll be like, okay, this sounds great. These are the type of people I want to work with. Because at the end, you're not going to work with the company, you're going to work with the people inside that company. Where can I add the most value? What I should learn / prepare in advance before starting to work here. You're trying to like be proactive off the bat in the conversation, meaning you're going to ask that question and you'll probably receive an answer like, oh, this is actually a candidate that is interested in what they can do before they start. So they still have a month until this. Maybe they can actually prepare with something else. That is actually a great idea to do and ask that type of question. Are there internal learning development opportunities set for advancement? That's a question that you might be interested in and want to learn. And of course, any other type of question that you think is fit. We just provided these examples here that you can check out. And it's smart to keep it very professional in that sense. Now, when it comes to like studying the rates, you guys will have a bunch of links here and a bunch of different components. You'll see that the research itself is with the average rates in the market to set realistic expectations regarding your compensation, so employee or freelance. And on the right side, you'll have the entry section, then you'll have the senior, and of course the in between is like if you put a sum and split it by 2, it's kind of like the mid level. You'll see that the rates will depend on the job itself, like the area of expertise, what type of expertise level it is, location, type of pay, if it's hourly versus fixed, type of job, and so on and so forth. Like you'll always get this type of thing all together there. And of course you get some sources and information there in the list below. Let's go actually forward as well, because this information you can actually read by yourself and actually check the links. You can use different avenues. So we did a general example here of different avenues. So we do have a bunch of job boards. There's like ArtStation jobs, you got Hitmaker, LinkedIn art jobs, you have Indeed video game artist jobs, and all those lists there that are Polycount form, all those things, Fiverr, Upwork, and animated jobs, all those links there, they're links related to art jobs specifically, depending on the area that you're interested in and the area that you want to actually apply in. And of course, there are some other things like referrals and networking is one of the things that is not, there's no list of referral and networking here, but you guys can actually build a referral and networking list for yourself. Like, hey, this is one of my buddies, he's on my networking list. These are people that recommended me, they're on my referral list. Like, it's good to be smart and organize yourself with a referral and networking list and actually add people there. And those people are the people that add values to those type of things. You have, of course, recruiting agencies or headhunters. I want to make a mention on agencies and headhunters. You have to remember, if you're working with an agency or a headhunter, you have to remember that the headhunter itself will get a commission money for you being hired by that company. So for the headhunter, it's in the headhunter's interest for you to get hired. So you can actually ask the headhunter, hey, do you have any tips discussing with these people? Because that is like, if the headhunter manages to get you hired, they'll get a commission basis. So that is good to understand for at least yourself as an individual, and understand you do have a bit of leverage when you're doing conversation with headhunter. You should not abuse this power though, because I don't think it's going to benefit you on the long run. But if you do want to have that conversation, you can say like, hey, I do really want to work with this and such company that you actually contacted me from. Is there any tips you can give me? And again, this works with private headhunters and private recruitment agency. This does not work with in-house recruiters, because that's why the companies will have in-house recruiters as well. And of course, the last one there, and a lot of people are here in this event, participate in events, which is absolutely amazing, and that's absolutely great. The next part, the persistence part. I think you guys can make a note and put it on the wall, like make a big writing, be persistent, like just hit it 10 times a day, and you'll see that there's definitely things are going to happen. So when it comes to stats, and this is basically me trying to manage expectations with you guys, if you're going to start going out there and doing applications, all that stuff, these are some things to actually keep in mind. When it comes to stats, it can take 20 to 80 applications and 6 first round interviews to receive one job offer. That happened in 2023. Those are stats. The first response after applying may come in 1-2 weeks. So again, managing expectations with yourself. I'm doing an application for this company. I'm expecting from this company in 2 weeks. Boom. I'll just make 2 dates. With multiple interviews and art tests, the entire interview process easily takes more than 1 month. So if I'm in a process of trying to find a job and recruiting, on average, I believe it will take you roughly a time between 1 and 3 months and up to 6 months to actually get a different job. Does it make sense? So it's 1 to 3, 3 to 6, depending on the scenario of the entertainment sector as well. Additionally, applying in certain months, like summer or end of year, can take longer due to recruiter unavailability, because they're going to be focused on other things. Remember, the process is over until you agree and are signing the contract. So until the part where you sign the contract and agreed upon terms and conditions there, nothing here is over. It always goes on and on. And even after that, after you start your job, you should still build a different strategy for the time coming in case something happens to the current job you have. You should always be prepared. There's a saying that great preparation outstands poor performance. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm telling you that it's pretty straightforward. Prepare yourself mentally for the lengthy process and keep applying every day. That's super important. Like, you don't have to be mentally, oh my god, like I'm not getting a job, and this is, I guess I understand it's draining. It will drain your ass quite a lot. You'll struggle a bit. You'll eat only baked potatoes. It's true, but you're not gonna die. You're not in a period of time where you're actually gonna die. So it's not gonna be like that crazy. So it's gonna be hard, not easy, but you're gonna be fine in the end. As long as you have that persistence mentality, you're actually gonna be fine. And of course, on the right side, you'll have a contact from a recruiter studio, a hiring manager screening. You'll have an art test. You have an in-house online interview, and of course, a job offer if that is the case. Now, on the financial side, let's go and actually take a bit of look on the financial side of things. Because like this might be a thing that can help you to organize your own finances, depending on where you live. It doesn't matter the location. You can actually make this calculation for yourself. So you have the expense categories. Like on the right side, you'll have the expense categories. You can actually take each category and actually checking out and see like what is like important, what not. You have the area where you can optimize, so you can start with that. You have the area where you can reduce, delay, or cut out, if that is the case. And of course, the area where you can maximize, even small, consistent contributions will make the difference. Meaning, like if you have a repayment of loans or debt, savings, you can always add to savings. You can always try to repay things quicker. You can always try to create an emergency fund that actually helps you out. That is like super important, I would say, for most people. It would be great to have that because it gives you a bit of a peace of mind that you will not actually be in a situation where you struggle to the extent of like pain and suffering that is like almost unbearable. And you start to do some like very bad decisions, because people, when they don't think clear, they're gonna have a tendency to get in debt more, do some like opportunistic stuff or whatnot, and those are bad decisions that can affect you in the long run. So the main three things here is estimate your expenses, live below your means, build an emergency fund, and at least aim to cover like 3 to 6 months. When it comes to live below your means, use the 50-30-20 rule. Allocate 50% budget for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings and repayment of debts. And of course, when it comes to estimating your expenses, list out and estimate your monthly expense on all different categories and try to optimize that as much as possible. Now, I'm gonna actually talk a bit about the passive income part. It's not gonna be a full thing, but I just want to address it a bit. So if you look for passive income, this is for mid people and advanced people. Entry people will have almost no shot or no chance in actually tackling the subject, simply because of lack of many things, from skill, expertise, portfolio, like the list is long. So rather than as a youngster focusing on that, maybe you can focus on growing a YouTube channel where you can communicate or get better at communication. That is fine, but that's not gonna be like something that will necessarily benefit you. So despite its name, passive income requires a significant active effort and is not for everyone. And here I make a big like exclamation point there, that passive income requires the time, the will, and the way meaning here you have to consider family and other responsibilities if you're set up with that. Setting up a passive income stream requires a significant amount of sacrifices. And the sacrifices, you see, it's a significant amount of sacrifice is bold because it is a lot of sacrifice. You sacrifice free time, interactions with family and friends, interactions with loved ones, interaction with people to a certain extent. All those things are going away. And this is over a prolonged or a long period of time. And important consideration, if you want to create any type of project, requires time and effort, including financial effort, as well as guidelines, workflows, and so on. Like, you need the structure and infrastructure behind it to create a product, to actually create that passive income. It takes 2 to 3 years to establish a relative stable passive income flow. So that's the amount of time it takes to establish it, somewhat like stable passive. In another 2 to 3 years, that's in total, like, you think about 6 years of consistent effort on a daily basis to reach a sort of like salary-based level. So even for a professional, if they want to get that salary-based level, it's roughly between 4 and 6 years on average. It benefits from an already established online presence and awareness, meaning that if you already have your world paved and you're still paving it out, you will benefit from that, but you need to understand it will still take quite a lot of time. This paves the way, but will not cut any of the effort involved. And that's very important. And on the right side, you have some examples of passive income options. You can sell digital products, you can have short tutorials, you can have physical products, you can set up a Patreon, set up and monetize a YouTube channel, create a short paid course for domestic Skillshare, and so on and so forth. And since we're at the end, I want to thank you everybody for taking your time going through the entire process. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we'll actually come next time to another event like this, where hopefully we actually added value to you guys and actually be helpful. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Check our video description for more resources, including courses, tips, feedback, and a lively community on Discord. I'll see you there.